All right, Photosynthesis Lab.
Alright, so our driving question for this lab was, does the size of the leaf disc affect the rate of photosynthesis? Photosynthesis is a process that autotrophs use to convert light energy into chemical energy. It takes place in the chloroplasts of the palisade mesophyll. The reactants are carbon dioxide, water, and sunlight, and the products are glucose and O2. It is a redox reaction, meaning electrons are either being gained or lost by a molecule slash atom. The two stages of photosynthesis are light reactions and Calvin cycle. Light reactions convert light energy into chemical energy and produce oxygen, while Calvin cycle assembles sugar molecules from CO2 using the energy from the products of the light reaction. There are no calculations required for this lab.
Next slide.
Yeah. So our hypothesis was the bigger the leaf disc, the more time it will take to float, if it does at all. Our reasoning for this is that bigger leaves contain more mass, meaning that it would need more oxygen to rise. We did not account for the larger surface area and therefore higher rate of photosynthesis of the larger leaf discs.
All right, so our lab procedure. Our lab procedure consists of 9 different steps. I'm going to be skipping 5A through E because it's just kind of, I don't know, irrelevant. But I will kind of explain what's happening with that. So, uh, our first step is to pour 100 milliliters of sodium bicarbonate solution into 3 different cups. And then our second step is to put 1 drop of soap into each cup with sodium bicarbonate solution. Our third step is to label the cups accordingly of small discs, normal discs, and large discs, so the 3 different groups. Um, and then our step 4 is to cut 39 leaf discs, 13 small, 13 normal, and 13 large. Uh, and then our fifth step is to use the syringe technique to prep the leaf discs. So basically, what this means is we're going to be like taking the plunger out, and we're going to be putting the leaf discs and sodium bicarbonate solution into the syringe. And then we will be putting our finger on the top of the syringe and depressing it until there's like a very small volume of air left. Um, and then we hold our finger on the top of the syringe and pull back the plunger until it's relatively hard to pull on. Um, and then you release the plunger, and leaves should begin to sink, or I guess rise. Uh, so our sixth step is to repeat the fifth step until 10 leaf discs have like sunk for each size of disc. And then our seventh step is to pour the solutions and discs into cups. Our eighth step is to put cups equidistant from light source, and then our ninth is to just observe the cups over a course of 15 minutes, and then record like the amount of floating discs in each cup. So these are our data tables. Our first data table is the number of leaf discs floating versus time. So you can see at the bottom, uh, it is there over 15 minutes. 9 large size leaf discs have risen to the top, and then only 6 of the normal and small have risen to the top. The next table in the middle is the ET50 table, and then the table to the right of that is the photosynthesis table. So this is the ET50 graph, but this is obviously not the completed graph because we haven't yet calculated our photosynthesis rate. So next slide. The photosynthesis rate graph to the right is our final graph. And then on the left side, we have the number of floating disks versus time, which is that original table that we showed you earlier. And that has 2 little cyan dots that represent the ET50s of both the large disks and the normal and small disks.
So for the analysis part, just the claim and evidence. So the trend in the data was that the larger the leaf discs, the faster and the larger total number of risen leaf discs there were. This is likely due, like Mark said, to the increased surface area of the larger discs. In terms of just evidence, like I said, like Calder said, the large had 9 risen at the end, and the normal and small both only had 7, which is shown right here. And then one other point is that the large discs went from 2 risen to 6 risen in just 1 minute, and no other size had like a jump like that. And even though like the large discs weren't the first ones to rise, they still had like the largest number at the end and like the largest gap. In terms of reasoning and error, so like I said, largest leaf disc had largest number, meaning that they rose the most or they performed the most photosynthesis, giving them the most oxygen to be able to rise. Um, and it had the fastest rate of rising with that big jump, which points to the faster rate of photosynthesis with the more surface area. Um, because of the larger surface area, there was more thylakoid, just like area in general, and that means there's more area for light reactions, more area for O2 to be produced, and just overall faster and more efficient photosynthesis than in the two sizes, just because of the amount of like resources it had to perform photosynthesis. Um, a few possible errors that could have occurred. Um, we might not have been able to put them just perfectly equidistant from the light. There might have been some that got a little less light energy than others. They also might have had different temperatures affecting the rate of photosynthesis. We also might have messed up the process that Calder was talking about when we tried to sink them in the syringes. That might have messed up their ability to rise. And then also transferring the discs into the actual cups from the syringes might have been messed up, and that might have somehow made its ability to perform photosynthesis a little worse. And finally, for the conclusion, our data does not support our hypothesis. This is because we believed that the larger leaf disc would be the slowest to rise and have the least number risen at the end. Oh. and the our data showed the opposite of this. The data showed that um, the large leaf discs had the fastest. Oh my god, the fastest rate and the most at the end. Um, for the driving question of does the size of the leaf disc affect the rate of hypothesis, the answer is yes. This is shown because of, like I just said, largest leaf disc had the most risen, fastest time to rise, and that's probably because of the more surface area and the more ability to perform photosynthesis effectively.